Welcome to InPower Episode 2. In a moment, we'll dive into customizing your document so that you can either have a so-called smart meter removed from your home or prevent one from being installed in the first place. But for now, let's get a laser-like focus and recap both the problem and the solution.
The problem is a residential surveillance platform being installed in the name of climate action. These so-called smart meters also cause microwave sickness, house fires, hacking vulnerability, and skyrocketing bills. We've basically been hoodwinked into funding our own harm, costing us billions collectively. There are three root causes why this agenda has been able to get this far. One, these meters are a core piece of surveillance capitalism, which, if unstopped, would be a multi-trillion-dollar enterprise, as we saw in episode 1. Two, a degradation of moral conscience. Hundreds of people who have sworn to serve the common good are doing just the opposite. Three, a total lack of accountability, as corporations now unabashedly run governments, including the legal system. So let's look at how this liability action addresses each of these. First, we are speaking their language of money. The individuals making profit-oriented decisions will be liable for way more than they are getting paid to carry this out. The more people do this, the greater the liability. Second, the clarity and truth within the document itself, as you're about to see, holds up a mirror to those involved, so they see the impact of the smart meter agenda. And third, liability is accountability. The potential liability of an agenda that involves house fires, widespread physical harm, and unlawful surveillance is truly unprecedented. But since corporate interests sway government and the legal system, they've been betting we wouldn't be able to convert that potential liability to actual liability. That's exactly what this process does. And it works, both on an individual level to protect your home and family, and the planetary level to halt this agenda entirely, and make it so that nothing like this can ever happen again. One of the most important things to us as a movement is that this solution can be expanded way beyond smart meters. These three root causes of profitability, degradation of moral conscience, and lack of accountability are the same for virtually all other harmful agendas on the planet. So wherever you see the dynamic of these three root causes, a committed mass action of liability can stop the harm, bring balance, and help create a beautiful future for us and our children.
We're all involved in a planetary awakening, that the reality here is different than what we had thought. So that's already happening. But what's most important is that we don't allow ourselves to get into apathy or cynicism, but instead we channel that awareness into action, and we engage in action that has the potential to change everything. This process is going to let those responsible know that they are financially liable for the harm they're either causing or allowing. And the first round of this process, the Notice of Liability document, is the big gun of this process. Everything else is just going to be follow-up leading to enforcement.
There are 12 pages in this Notice of Liability, or NOL. This is followed by a 3-page affidavit, which is a sworn statement of fact, and a 1-page bill of lading, which is a simple shipping document. We'll go through the first 6 pages in more detail, then move swiftly through the remaining ones. Feel free to pause at any point if you need more time to digest what's on the screen. And if you're more tactile, you can print out a copy of the Notice of Liability template located on your InPower Action Center page. Then follow along. With that, let's take a look at the first element, the title page.
This is the title page. What we're doing is we're putting the names of people who are acting as X in a corporation, and we're calling them out as actual human beings on a planet without all that stuff. Here's where the first time we say silence is agreement. This is a self-executing contract. So And we say it numerous times in here, if you don't respond properly, then you're agreeing with all the terms of this contract. We say it over and over and over. We're giving full disclosure of this thing. We're in the meeting of the minds thing. We're not hiding anything. We're telling you this is what's going to happen. So if they go silent, that means they're agreeing with this contract.
Okay.
And there's governing laws inside their system that says so, because they're doing it to you right now with this issue. Okay, so tit for tat, right? So notice the principal and is notice the agent, and notice the agent is notice the principal. That means if I've sent it to your underling, then you're noticed. If I send it to you, then all your underlings are noticed. So this goes, boom. You can't pretend like you didn't get it. So then here's where you put who you're going to send this to, and you have 4 for your region, but when I did it, I had 19. Their name's right here, and this is their title. So every person that's got a title is an actor, and their title is protected, but they're not protected as a man or woman on the planet. So you want to address both the title and the man or woman.
So here is a completed page 1 with the written date, the respondents section, and your name and gender. To help you select 4 respondents, we recommend your electric utility CEO, a utility commissioner in your region, and 2 local or regional government officials who are either supporting or allowing smart meter harm.
So here and after, those people are going to be called respondents liabilities. Okay, so then your name would go there, and you're claiming all rights, and I mean all of them, nunc pro tunc. Now, nunc pro tunc means then for now, so you're going all the way back and all the way forward. So they can't pretend that somebody did something, your great-grandfather did something or whatever. You're just getting rid of all that, all those assumptions. Okay, so here and after, you're the claimant and or libelant. Sui juris means I'm handling my own affairs. Don't consider me a ward of the state like they are or anything like that. I can handle my own legal and contract affairs.
So where you put your name there, can that be a group name or does it have to be each individual person?
No, you would want to have your name in there. Yeah, this is a contract, so okay. And you're telling them that this is a man and woman, so this is me and you, human beings. We got a problem, and it's the smart meters, and you are putting smart meters on my house. You can't hide behind your title. You can't hide behind science that says this is okay. I'm saying it's not okay, and we got a problem, and we're going into a contract here. Okay. So you would be the claimant or the liability. And they would be the respondents and liabilities, depending on whether you go down the road of commerce or you want to get them into a criminal negligence sort of thing.
Next, we'll take a look at the second element of the NOL, called the preamble, and why it's important in this document.
So preamble is basically setting up the terms of this situation. It appears there is a global agenda to implement so-named smart grid. Okay? And it appears that the said agenda is being, or is to be implemented in the landmass commonly known as, and that's where you would put State of Michigan and Michigan. That's 2 different things, okay? Because one is here, one's a corporation, and one is in the Republic, okay? That's why we're writing it 2 different ways. And they know this. When they see this stuff, they know that they get it. Okay? They know basically they know that you know. It's like the guy behind the curtain with the Wizard of Oz. There's no more pretending, right? So the third one basically describes what we're saying. So they can't use word magic against it. So we're saying smart grid, smart meters, advanced meters, non-transmitting digital meters. So it's not they can't pretend they don't understand what it is. Okay, so then the fourth one is that plausible deniability part. It appears as an agenda of false information. And this false information can be used as plausible deniability. So you'll see people saying, in order to get away from the liability, oh, well, I was told this, right? I had this piece of paper that said it was safe. So I have plausible deniability against a tort. Or it's being used for those that are really complicit with it. And there are people on the planet who are like full on with this. So we're getting rid of that whole thing, right? And then here's where we start into, it appears that these advanced meters do cause harm. So we're making a claim. Harm of various kinds. So I've left that wide open. So everybody here is being affected in a different way. That's various kinds. So it can be, doesn't matter, you can use it for no matter what your harm is, right? I'm being harmed, therefore I need to be compensated. And this is all within the common law, the Bible law, the corporate laws. Like, you can go anywhere with this. Okay, because it's a statement that just kind of works everywhere. That's the beauty of understanding how the English language works. And if you understand law, in Black's Law Dictionary, so I looked up the word demand, and it said it was the second strongest word in law, next to claim, which is the strongest word in law. So that's where we make our claim, that they are causing harm. And then we're also claiming that if they are causing harm, it can be considered a tort. Now, a tort is a harm that's compensable by law, in the common law and in these courts. So it goes in both. Okay? And it appears there's no bond of record in existence. Now, they can refute all this stuff in a contract. All of these terms of this contract, they can renegotiate, but they won't. What you'll get is silence or these blanket things where they just say this isn't valid. Okay, so, but we're basically doing a contract the proper way. So we're basically saying there is no bond, and if they can come up with a bond, then we'll know where to get the money from, right? So they won't. Okay, so a person with full knowledge of a potential harm, like if you know something is going to harm somebody and you don't do something about it, then you are liable. And you can be called, you could actually be found negligent or criminally liable. So this can end up being a criminal case as well for those that want to go there. So this is, it's a fundamental principle of law that nobody is above the law, including government agents, etc. And there is a court case that just came down in the last year, and you can look that up. It's Milberg versus United States, where they upheld that you can't hide behind your badge or your position anymore. Okay, so that's a recent case. That was a guy in jail who got abused, and they were trying to hide behind their, I'm a jail guard and I'm a warden and all this stuff.
And they're not immune when they go beyond the scope of their authority.
Exactly. Smart meters is going beyond the scope of their authority. And so we did all those whereases, and we're basically saying, looks like there's some kind of agenda going on that's worldwide, and looks like it's harming people, and looks like you people can't hide behind something, therefore, we are giving you this contract.
The next section is called Citus. Cal will explain what function this serves in the document.
So Citus is basically what laws or jurisdiction you're going to be working out of. So this is all based on right of contract, and everybody has the right to contract. It's a common law right. You have it as an American, I don't want to use the word citizen, but as an American you have the right to contract. In the common law and in law merchant, you have the right to contract, and everything they do is contract. So you're basically invoking that right to contract. You're just doing it really well. Okay, so here's where we restrict the jurisdiction. So we're basically saying this is out here, you cannot take it in here. So no jurisdiction in any kind of court, real or imagined, can supersede this.
I was realizing how the system worked and how it's not reality. And so what they had done is they took our process, DT's the corporation, their corporate attorney actually submitted it, as evidence, and the motion to dismiss. It was part of their case, which was great because they were trying to have the judge rule against it. Well, I know better than that they can't. It's very simple. I just decided I was done with it, and I just said, this is out of this court subject matter jurisdiction. And she goes, okay. And that was it.
The judge said, okay,
head down, okay.
Put her head down, and she didn't bring that up again.
Nothing. The DT attorney looked like he was going to explode. I mean, he was red. I mean, when we were leaving after that, the case, he chased me down the hallway, and I have witnesses because I bring lots of people into court with me now, I've learned. Yeah. And he was like, you have to sign this. And this is like a 65-year-old corporate attorney.
Wow.
Like, I don't have to sign anything. And he wanted me to sign this document, and he goes, we're leaving, and he was like, I'm telling the judge, and started running towards the courtroom doors, and we were just like, okay. The more you sit in this and the curtains pulled back, it's just a joke. I mean, it's to the point where I can't even be angry at these people anymore because it's ridiculous. And it is.
And contract law is like I said, it's out here. This system is subject to contract law, and that's why they get you in contracts, because they have to get you in contracts. Okay, so that's just restricting the jurisdiction. This is joining the contract is for lawyers, et cetera, that are going to be writing on behalf of some of the people you're going to be writing to. And we're basically saying we're not allowing that. Oh, actually, we are allowing it, but it costs you $10 million to join the contract. Okay? And these are the guarantees. Now, I put the Bible in there, and I put the coronation oath of Elizabeth Windsor, only because I know most people think the Queen has nothing to do with, and here she doesn't in the Republic. But somebody owns this corporation, and I'm guessing she's probably part of it, because this was an English colony to start with, and I think they just got it back through the banking system. So I put her in there, and because her oaths go into this realm out here, okay? So don't be alarmed by the Queen thing.
It's a well-established fact.
Yeah, 2 past presidents have been knighted by her. In other words, they took a knee to the Queen and the sword was put on their shoulder. Now, if you understood what they went through to get this republic, and 2 of your presidents have taken a knee to the Queen, I think something's going on. We're also claiming, as part of our guarantees, the United States Constitution, which is here, the Bill of Rights, and the constitutional oaths of office of certain government officials, okay? The common law here, law merchant here, and Uniform Commercial Code. Now, the Uniform Commercial Code is basically the law merchant codified in a more modern way. It's a federal code, and states have adopted it. So that's where you'll find a lot of tacit agreement that's sort of law, right? So
That's what the UCC is. Okay. Now, I know there's people who have trouble with the Bible, so I don't want anybody feeling uncomfortable with it. The claimant is not claiming any benefit of any of these guarantees, and the Bible is exclusively just more as a contract and not as doesn't give you any religious affiliation of any way. Okay, you can have that, but there's people who definitely I know that don't want to be associated with it, so we put that in there. Okay, and like organized religious groups, corporate organizations, which most churches are just another. They're just another corporation.
Pages 4 and 5 include a subnotice and the plain statement of facts, which Cal will explain in detail.
So this notice at the top. Now notices come from the common law. So whenever you see a notice, you got to take notice. And when they started to put the smart meters on, they sent you a notice, which means they're operating here. Okay, so this is where we are invoking archangels. I'm just going to say it. So that's this document is being watched by archangels, for those that understand that. Okay. This was written from. Comes from the book of Daniel, and Daniel figured out that when the Israelites were in Babylon, that it was a 70-year term, which we just went through a 70-year bankruptcy from 1929 when the stock market crashed to 1999. So everything is very similar. So this is what happened, and the Bible isn't clear about exactly what documents were passed, but the Israelites were slaves one day, and then the very next day, they wanted them out of Babylon, back to Jerusalem, build their temple, and open the treasury and give them all the gold. So this is going to happen again. This system is coming down, people, and you're part of it.
So I do want you to understand, we've gone into those jurisdictions that are scaring the very upper people on the planet.
This is what the English language looked like in 1611.
Yeah.
Now this letter right here, it looks like a V, but it's pronounced U. And when you look at the letter W, that's two U's. Because that used to be U. And you'll see it on old buildings.
Yeah, it used to be.
Now why? Yeah. Now why is that better? Or why is this better than that, the original? Like, why did you change that? But I can tell you what it did do. It changed that verse without changing it. Because if I read it in the modern language, it reads identical. But if I write that verse down in a legal document, that's not the original. So technically, that's changing the contract without changing the word, because they're not allowed to change the Bible for some reason. But they technically didn't, but they changed the letters. And so when I switched to this, when I found this in plain view, I had to go and get it, but they're available. There was a different reaction. So, like, why? If you read this, there's not one verse that's not affected by the changing of the alphabet. It is a contract. An oath has been sworn on it by the person in authority, or claims to be in authority.
The Queen.
Yeah, Queen Elizabeth. She's under contract.
Will you to your power cause law and justice in mercy to be executed in all your judgments?
I will.
Will you to the utmost of your power maintain the laws of God and the true profession of the gospel?
All this I promise to do. The things which I have herebefore promised I will perform and keep, so help me God.
The Queen kisses the Bible and subscribes the oath.
I, Barack Hussein Obama, do solemnly swear
that I will faithfully
The Bible is a foundational law book, and the principles of commerce are in there. It's in every courtroom. They've taken it out of schools and other places, but you'll still find it in a courtroom. And I don't think that's because they want it there. I think it has to be there. Otherwise, they would have removed it.
Now, another thing in Revelation, it talks about this system, and it calls it Babylon. And this is in Revelation 18. So you can go home and read it, and you can take it for whatever you think, but it's like, you know, it's coincidental that it seems to work. So it's describing this system that is based on commerce. And it says to come out of her, like get out, and then take the cup that she's been giving to you, fill it double, which is not like numerical, sounds more like money. And the cups she's been given to us is money. Everything they do is money. Hand it back to them. And that's what I've done. And they choke on it. And in Jeremiah 25, it talks about if they won't take the cup, it says to say, "Thus saith the Lord, thou shalt surely drink." And that's all you got to do. And then it describes they will fall down and spew and roll around their own vomit and all kinds of stuff, right? So it's right in there. So that's what I've done. I've basically taken their system. It's a corrupt system. I learned it the hard way. I took the cup, filled it full of 300 million, and handed it back.
Now, if they drink the cup, then it's true that it is self-correcting. If they don't, then there's a problem inherently with the system. And they won't be able to stand in upper jurisdictions and make the claims that they're making that the system is working fine. And that we're all agreeing to this. So somebody has to go, no, the system isn't working for me because I'm trying to work it and it's not working. Okay, so this is a plain statement of facts. Now, when we did those other things, those were more like claims. These are facts, okay? And again, they can refute these. But this is our statement of facts. Okay, so we start with the common law, and basically I'm explaining what I just explained to you. We talk about the law merchant, the Uniform Commercial Code, and the Constitution is the supreme contract for the men and women sojourning on the landmass commonly referred to as the United States of America. So what that's saying, we're making it clear that we're not in this USA, we're here. And they are subject to it, and they have oaths that tie them to it. Okay, the common law, I basically say, is sort of comes from the Bible, and it's codified by William Blackstone. And so those commentaries were part of the founding fathers of the United States in forming the republic here. Okay, so the past and present monarchs, including Elizabeth, have sworn an oath to uphold the Bible and the common law. These are just facts. There are references to a higher jurisdiction, like I've been talking out here, in the Declaration of Independence. So even the founding fathers talked about stuff out here.
Right.
This is not a belief system. This is real. That's the only thing I can tell you. Like, I've been through this. So that's part of the start of the Republic. And here's the oaths. The president, who you saw in the film, promises that. That's a fact.
And then state officers and judges promise to support the Constitution. So we're basically putting it in front of them, right?
Here in number 9, you accept any oaths of office taken by your respondents' liabilities. This invokes their oath and in effect creates a contract with them to protect your constitutional rights.
Now, because we're in a contract negotiation, they can refute all these things. They can renegotiate this and send back a counteroffer. And that's what we're telling them to do. We give you 10 days or whatever, however many days it is, to refute any of these statements. If they don't, they stand. That's how this game works. This is how they do it to you. Now we're doing it to them.
Would the rebuttal come in a form of a letter through the mail, perhaps?
Yes, you'll see later on, I stipulate how the response has to be. It has to be in an affidavit form with proper science, etc. And so you can set this up, and they won't answer because the problem is they're always lying. So it's hard to find truth. Like, how do you get truth when your stuff is all lies, right? So you win every time. Like every time. Okay, so there's the oaths. And here's what the Bible says about oaths. This stuff scares them. And doesn't matter what your opinion of the Bible is, you can hold that opinion, but I can tell you this, that scares them. What I'm saying is, your opinion doesn't matter, they believe it, okay? That's a better way to put it. So again, here's on the oaths. So this, I'm citing this as law, not as a religious belief or anything like that. It's just another higher law, and it works. So number 10, when Congress makes a law, like we're going to put smart meters on people's houses, which is outside the scope of its enumerated powers, it is no law at all, but is void. So if they're putting in a device that is spying on you, it's a direct violation of the Constitution. And you have no obligation to comply. These are facts, people. When it is proven by tacit agreement, which they use against you, that it's coming from outside the United States, and it is, and it's causing harm to the men and women of the Republic, their livestock, their pocketbooks, the insects, then it's an act of war.
Yes, it is.
And anybody that's complicit with it, it's called treason. So this document also brings in treason.
Here we include several supporting citations directly relevant to treason.
So there in Article 3, Section 3, treason shall consist in levying war against them or in adhering to their enemies, giving them aid. So anybody that's inside the United States that is aiding this worldwide agenda, and it turns out that it's harming people or killing them or anything like that, it's basically treason. Now, you're not going to be able to get them in here. You're going to have to set up grand juries here. The people. And the grand jury is an arm of your government. So the people have to get up and change this, okay? And you have the right to do that. They're just trying to make you think you're in here, but you're actually here, and you just got to invoke all that stuff that's in that republic. It's not gone. Otherwise, I wouldn't be swearing an oath to it. So the Fourth Amendment, everybody knows that you can't spy on people. And I put the 14th Amendment in, and I know there's a lot of people that have a problem with that because it's can be construed as being in here. But even if you're in there, you have certain rights in there as well, right? So I did put that one in. So they have to have due process of law, which means they can't just go, I'm putting the smart meter on your house and that's it. Okay?
In the U.S. Code, misprision of treason says that anyone who has knowledge of the commission of any treason, which this document clearly provides, and who does not do anything about it, is guilty and shall be fined, imprisoned, or both.
This is just at the start of it, right? Seattle was the first group,
right.
And there's 4 individuals that are either stepping down or not seeking re-election. You know, there's no proof that it's because of the notice of liability, but the coincidences seem to be adding up. Like
well, there isn't coincidences to me, because I'm seeing, well, that's the whole thing, is when you do stuff like this publicly, they're never going to admit, they're never going to say, oh, I'm quitting because they sent me all these documents and I don't want to be responsible. They aren't going to ever admit that. They're just going to make up some excuse. And so, and the other thing is they just act like they can do this to us, but when we do it back to them, the same thing, it doesn't apply to them. That's the way they act. And so you just have to, when you're doing this process, you have to just know that you're the person that's wearing them down. They're not wearing you down. And you just have to keep doing it until you get the results that you're looking for, because you know that you're right. And your energy, like the energy of the group and our consciousness, has a lot to do with the force of the documents, because our energy is on it. And the 20 people that we have doing it are very focused and knowledgeable, and we know that we're right about this.
Yeah.
And we're interested in helping ourselves and everybody else too.
Next is the conditional acceptance element, including its framework on pages 7 to 9 and our specific terms on page 10.
So here's where we get into the conditional acceptance. So we're basically starting the contract negotiations. So here's a point of law. All contracts, which is what I told you, begin with an offer, become binding upon acceptance. So this is known throughout law. This is how it all works. I can never say that that's just not true, because it's all like that. Everything. We're now in the meeting of the minds area. So we're describing this contract. We're basically saying it's going to become binding because they started it. So this is just basically explaining the outline of the contract. So we're saying they can avoid liability by responding to all the points on the contract and all the points in an affidavit, and basically proving that these smart meters are okay. And then we're okay with the smart meter. The statement must be sworn to be true under penalty of perjury, supported by certified factual evidence and verified proof. But they can't, and they won't, because the smart meters are harmful, and they could never ever do this. So we give them opportunity to basically have a meeting of the minds, and so that's what this is all about. You can't just send a letter saying I don't agree. You have to do it in a point-by-point basis. This is what we're defining what non-performance is on the contract. We're defining what failure to respond is, including silence. We're also including insufficiency response. So if you get a letter from
if they try to send a letter from a lawyer and they just go, there's no basis in law and we deny everything, which is what you're going to get, we're saying that's not good enough. And then we get into tacit agreement, which is what they use. And if they go silent, then they've agreed. Okay? And that's Latin. That is what's called a legal maxim, and it basically says that. So this has gone on for a long time. If you don't say no, then you've said yes. These are cases where they talk about not speaking or not answering in a proper way. And those are all American. This is a UCC, which we said we're using, which is basically a more modern law merchant. And they talk about tacit agreement and not responding, etc. This is our conditional acceptance. So part of a contract is an unconditional acceptance. The minute it's conditional, then the contract is still in the negotiation part. This is where you're going back and forth when you're selling your house until you finally come to, okay, we're going to agree, and then you sign, and then the subjects are removed, and then the house can actually, the money moves, and then the person can move into the house. We will take your smart meter if you can do this, 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 and this. And it's impossible for them to do, okay? If they don't respond to this, then this is what they're agreeing to, okay? So now we're saying you can't install it at or near the dwelling. Now in this contract, we've also put a thing where all words are as the claimant liability understands them, which they can renegotiate out, but they won't. So when you see the word near, that's as you decide what near is, okay?
So let's pause here for just a moment and go back to page 3 under situs, where we stipulate that all words in this contract are as the claimant liability understands them. This means that you get to choose what the word near means. It could be 1,000 feet or 1,000 miles. It depends on your level of belief and what you want to do with this process. Before we go on, here is an example of this section completed. As you can see, there's a C/O or care of before the address and square brackets around the zip code. Both of these serve to remove any assumption that you're in either a corporate or military jurisdiction. So we recommend that you do this whenever you write your address.
You agree that you can only have an analog meter. That respondents are liable for all loss or harm. We had to make it pretty generic for as many situations as possible. So we have an order in here for anybody that doesn't have one, you can't put it on. Anybody that does have one, you got to remove it. So, and it's still the same contract, right? So we'll sort of get into that.
Anybody that has a meter, we want it removed within 7 days. You can't shut the power off because of this, right? So these are the things they'll have to agree.
So we're saying if you put that thing on there, we're going to be charging X amount of dollars per day, or however you want to do it. So we leave that blank. You can choose your own number. It's not this is whatever you're comfortable with, or whatever you think it's worth to have that nasty thing on your house.
So what should your daily fee schedule be? You're in the driver's seat with this document, so the amount is completely up to you. What the majority of seed group claimants chose was between $1,000 and $25,000 per day. On pages 11 and 12, we state where any responses must be sent and add several other terms.
So this notice is response has to be within, we've got written here 10 days after delivery of this contract, okay? Here's where they must respond to 2 witnesses.
You should have 2 witnesses witness
the mailing for you. You want to be able to prove that you sent this to them, and you want to be able to prove that they didn't send you something back. And it can never be in a he said direct party. You want to have a third party, either a notary or even just two people in here. But you have to be able to prove that they didn't send you something back. What you want to have is a date. So you have 14 days. You need to send it to him and him for you. And then they come in and say, we didn't get anything. So now you got two outside witnesses saying, I didn't get anything on your behalf. So you get how that works? How do you prove that they didn't send you something back? So you would send it to actually have them respond to those two guys. Then they say, we didn't get anything on your behalf. So the Bible talks about two witnesses, and your Constitution talks about two witnesses for treason. So this is to prove that they didn't respond.
Choose witnesses who are easily available to you because they'll need to be involved in the first 3 rounds of this process. For this first round, the NOL, they will be designated as both the sender of your documents and receiver of any responses. And in the second round, in a couple of weeks, the notice of fault, both of your witnesses sign a 1-page affidavit of non-response, verifying that no sufficient responses were received. You then include their affidavits in your second round documents.
Okay, so any errors and omissions, they can't just pretend like there's something wrong with the instrument. They have to say there is something wrong with the contract. Okay, so here's being graceful. If additional time is required, you always want to show grace, even though you're going for the jugular. But you've got to give them every opportunity to do the right thing. Like I'm telling you, you basically go, come on, guys, this is right. You know what the Constitution says? You can't put these stupid smart meters in. Like, what are you thinking? So any collateral attack on this contract is in bad faith, so that any court or government or anything that's trying to impair this contract, it's not allowed. Here we say it again. If the respondent liabilities agree with all the statements herein, just stay silent. So this contract is instantly self-executing upon issuance. So we have to go through a bunch of steps in order for it to become a binding contract, but you can start your billing process back to the beginning, okay? Again, we're going to be giving them a notice of default. And all parties of this agreement agree to be bound in perpetuity forever. So when you're dealing with principalities, for those of you, that understand what this is about, this is powerful stuff. The Bible says we wrestle not with flesh and blood, but principalities, rulers. So it goes that high. And they're stuck because of their system. They're stuck with what these people do out here through agency, because it's their system. Very powerful.
This recently added section stipulates that respondents' liabilities cannot be bailed out or make their customers pay for anything regarding this process. And the second sentence makes it clear that all of this liability completely goes away when they simply remove all trespassing technology and return to lawful analog meters throughout their service area or region. The final element is the conclusion.
And then we say it again. Notice the principle is notice to agent. Notice the agent is notice to principality. As above, so below. That's the Hermetic. As it is here, so it is here, for those that understand that. Yes. And for those that are more biblical, thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. We want this here instead of that. So here's where you put your name in. I declare my unlimited commercial liability, which is what we're asking them to do. This is a contract, and that everything I said here is true to my best understanding. You date it, and you sign it. Yeah, and there's where your witnesses sign, and there's where a notary would sign, okay?
Here is an example of a completed page 12. In the US version, you have the option to use a notary who serves as a third witness, which is recommended but is not required. Using a notary may further strengthen your document within the corporate jurisdictions.
So this is Exhibit A. Here is their offer, which most of you probably saw. In the next few weeks, DTE Energy will begin installing advanced metering in your area. That's the offer, right there.
Do we need the original that we received?
No.
Okay, so you may be wondering, what do I use as my exhibit? You can use anything that shows your utility is promoting smart meters, whether it's a letter to you personally or a page from their website about smart meters.
So there's the offer that starts this contract. They can't get out of it because they started it, okay? Yeah, this is your affidavit. So an affidavit is a statement of truth that has to be sworn to. And here's where we get into the technical aspects of the smart meter issue. What you saw there before was more just a contract that could be used for anything, really. But this is your affidavit that they have to refute each one of these points with actual facts. They can't just go, oh, they're safe, they're safer than cell phones, or these blanket statements you see everywhere. And I mean, they use the same words everywhere, just so you understand that.
Feel free to pause this or print out the document template for yourself, but we'll just give an overview of the content. Point 4 states the facts of the smart utility meters, that they can unlawfully record and transmit data, that they emit pulsed microwave frequencies that harm life, and that they have been demonstrated to cause fires and other harms. Point 5 includes specific admissions of the intention to collect and market surveillance data with this technology. Point 6 states that this is a violation of our Fourth Amendment rights. Point 7 says that the location is on or adjacent to private property without explicit consent. Point 8 states that private property is serving as a relay station for corporate systems without compensation, consultation, or disclosure of facts. Point 9 outlines the hacking vulnerability and potential shutoffs caused by smart meters and the smart grid, and the utility's liability in all resulting harm. Point 10 speaks of the voltage transients or dirty electricity and the resulting harmful effects. Point 11 summarizes the widespread house fires caused by so-called smart meters, including several fatalities. Point 12 outlines a list of mass replacements due to fires and explosions. Point 13 speaks of the radio interference caused by this technology, which is against FCC code. Point 14 says that this interference has been shown to specifically include medical devices, and that utilities have failed to disclose or responsibly act upon these facts. Point 15 outlines the harm from pulsed microwave radiation, the pulses of which have been measured between hundreds and tens of thousands of times stronger than a cell phone. Point 16 states that industry's claims of safety are false, misleading, not based on actual science, self-serving, and fraudulent. Point 17 states the admitted fact that government safety standards for microwave radiation are only based on thermal or heating effects, and that the science used by these agencies is outdated and inapplicable. Point 18 says that there is no indication that the FCC is interested in protecting men, women, and children from harm caused by radio frequencies.
And here's where you sign, and your two witnesses, and your notary.
Here's an example of the completed page.
Now this is a bill of lading, so if we're going to do the two witnesses to witness the service, they would put their names here. This is where the respondent's name would go. That's how you're sending it, and then it can be anything else. You can use a courier or whatever you want to use. So here's the cargo manifest. Now, if you see what's happening here, this is a bill of lading. So it puts you in law merchant instantly because it's a bill of lading. Now you're in the commerce, shipping. So this is what the cargo is on this ship.
It's true.
Believe me, you should see some of the responses I get to this. They get it. So whether you get it or not, they do. So so this is a notarized copy, and again, if you don't get it notarized, just remove that. So you're getting a copy of this notice, you're getting an affidavit, and then a copy of the bill of lading. So you would just send them a copy. And generally when I do a bill of lading, I put all my stamps, if I'm sending registered mail, I put them right on there, and then take a copy of that and stick it in the envelope, and I keep the original. So the original will have blue ink signatures from your witness. And the thing about originals is there's an indentation when you use a pen on the paper, so you're in 3D. It's an actual happening, not a fictitious, this is fictitious. A real human being did something in the universe. You want to keep that one. And send them a copy of it. Because it's good enough. But what happens is you'll get the letters back saying there's no basis in law for what you're doing. So they'll lie right to you to see what you do. Oh, and if you go away, well, you didn't really know. But if you keep coming, they're like, oh boy, no. This is bad. Okay? And that's it.
All right, so you guys just got huge down.
In Nazi Germany, the reason what happened is because there's a chain of command and everyone says, I'm just following orders. He told me to do it. Well, now what we're doing is we're saying, no, you're getting paid a very good salary and you took an oath of office and I'm holding you accountable to follow and to satisfy your oath of office. What is going to come up, in my opinion, because it came up with me and I'm sure it came up with Siobhan at some point, and I think it'll come up with each one of you, is fear. And the fear is, we're taught in this country and we're in our generation, we're taught that everything should be comfortable. But there's a tunnel of fear that we have to go through, and it's a growing process. So on the subconscious level, we've been brainwashed to be afraid of authority. So for instance, I'll give you a personal example. So I sent out all my letters, I've been doing it for 2 months, and it culminated with the notice of demand. So then I get a certified mail from the Suffolk County Department of Law, and I have to go sign for it. So a lot of fear came up. Oh, what am I doing? Am I crazy? Why am I messing with these people? So then I said, well, that's what came up. And I was in a lot of fear. And it's a subconscious fear. I know consciously I shouldn't be afraid, but it's a subconscious fear that I can't control. My body reacts, and I didn't sleep well. I had nightmares. I woke up sweating. And the next day I went to the post office, and through Siobhan and the research that she's done and she shared, I learned how to correctly sign for the certified mail so I wouldn't be the legal fiction which they're trying to attach to me. So I signed it, Andrew Mark Edison, all rights reserved, without prejudice, and checked that I'm an agent for the legal fiction. So that took a lot of courage on my part, and I went through a lot of fear. But you know something? In order to go through a growth process, we have to sometimes accept that we're going to be uncomfortable. And we'll go out, and we're going to come out the other side, and we'll be fine. And that's the part of the whole process of taking back your power, is to be uncomfortable and to accept that everything in life isn't just a bed of roses, but when you get out the other side, you're going to come out empowered.
So that concludes the Notice of Liability walkthrough. We know it's a lot of information. Remember that you're not alone, because you're united with everyone else doing this process. And we're here to support you in every way possible. Why are you part of the InPower Movement core team?
I'm part of the InPower Movement core team because it's time. I know you, if you're here, if you're watching this right now, you know it's time. You know it's time to make a stand. You know it's time to do what's right, to stop everything that's been wrong in our society, on our planet, on the side of your house, and for whatever reason why you want to do it. I'm here to say that I'm going to be here with you and for you as you move through this process, as our team moves with you through this process, so we learn, grow, and act together and move towards a solution that we all need.
Really takes us outside of a bubble that we've been in for so long and have felt so, maybe hopeless in. And it's transforming fear to love.
What do you want to see happen in the future?
I'd like to see the Earth operate the way it was designed by Creator.
Our kids are being used as guinea pigs and they're not being protected. We need to protect them now, and that is my sole purpose in life, is the protection of our children.
My first reaction was that, wow, it's like all of the loose puzzle pieces finally just clicked into place.
When we respect ourselves at the deepest core level, we heal the world.
Cal, what's the most important intention that we hold as we do this process?
To birth something new.